Hello software pros. In this video, we're going to build our first front-end application, also known as client-side application. A front-end application is an application that the user can interact with. In our case, we're going to build a login page, and once the user logs into the application, the user should be able to see a welcome message. So we're going to use HTML, we're going to add some CSS, and we're also going to do a little bit of JavaScript in our application. So the requirements to do software development, according to myself, are to be able to download applications from the internet, and also the ability to search the internet or Google. So let's get started with the application. The first thing we need to do is create a folder on our desktop. I'm going to call this folder UI. So in this folder, we're going to create a file called index.html, and this file will be open in a web browser. So if you're using a Windows operating system, Mac OS, or Linux-based operating system, you already have a text editor, and that could be WordPad, Notepad, Notepad++, gedit, TextEdit, or whatnot. In our case, we are using a modern code editor called Visual Studio Code, and you don't need it for this tutorial, but you can download it if you need to. And for me, it's just something that I use a lot, so it's easier to just demo using this tool. But like I said, you can pretty much use any code editor or text editor that you already have. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is to go to the web page called w3schools.com. w3schools.com. So here you will see a bunch of tutorials for various web application building tools and also programming languages, including JavaScript, HTML, CSS, Python. You will see there's a bunch of other languages that you can learn by coming to this website. In our case, we only need HTML to get started. So you can search for HTML here, or you can just click Learn HTML. And once you open this page, you can see there's a lot of sections, a bunch of stuff that you can learn about HTML. So if you spend your time here, you're going to become better at HTML, and you can move on to other languages as well. So this website, the good thing, you can try the different piece of codes that they have, or the different examples that they have. You can try by just clicking on this button. So here they show you a basic template for an HTML page, and they show you how it displays in the web browser. So let me go back. So from the home page of HTML tutorial, we're going to copy this text, and this is a template that you can use for pretty much any UI project that you have going forward. So if you copy it, you can just paste it in the text editor. In my case, I'm going to create a new file. First of all, I need to import my project, right? So if I go to File, Open Folder, I start a folder called UI on my desktop. I just imported my project into Visual Studio Code. So now I can create a file here easily by just clicking on this button, and I'm going to call my file index.html. and I'm just going to paste what I just copied and save. So you can save with Command S or Control or Windows S on the Windows machine. Command S is on the Mac. So you could paste this in the code editor that you have and create a file called index.html. So if I showed you, I just created that file from my code editor. Okay, so in order to be able to launch your web page, you can come to that HTML file and double click it. So HTML is just some content that's going to be interpreted by a web browser. So if you double click it, you already have your web page built. So now you can come and edit it a little bit. So for the title of the page, let's call it Software Pro, and for the heading, let's do Software Pro Demo. And you can just put some text like this is my first front-end application. And there you go, you save it, and if you come back to the page and refresh it, you have your first web page going. Okay, so now this second thing we're going to do is add some styles. So we're going to add some CSS in our HTML. So if you scroll down to HTML CSS, there's some CSS, and it shows you how to include some CSS into your HTML. So you have some style tags. So if you copy these styles and paste them here in the header of our HTML, okay, and save it, you can see how we just gave a background color powder blue to our web page. There's a title that we gave a blue color and a paragraph in red. So if you just come to the page and refresh it, you see how everything has changed. I'm just going to remove styles for this paragraph. So by default, it will be a black color. Okay, so this looks a little better. So now let's add some JavaScript to our page. So if you go back to W3 Schools and let's search for JavaScript. Okay, so we have some HTML JavaScript here that you can click on, and also this will show you how to add JavaScript to your HTML. You can use the script tags. So if I copy this, I can paste it. This one you paste it in the body tags at the end. So we just added a script, a JavaScript to be precise, that we can run on our page. So right now, this does not affect anything. So if I save this and refresh the page, you can see that nothing has changed. But if I give an ID to this paragraph called an ID of demo and save it, so rerunning this page will tell you hello JavaScript. So what has happened? This JavaScript, all it's doing is going to our document, so the entire thing, and looking for an element with an ID of demo, which is our paragraph, with the p tag, and replacing its HTML with hello JavaScript. So that's why the content has changed from this is my first front-end application to hello JavaScript. Okay, so we just added some JavaScript. So now let's get to the signing or the login section. To log into our application, we need a few stuff, right? So first of all, let's add a div. So div is the way to giving sections to your document. So for the login page, there's going to be a label of username with a text followed by a text to input the username. Same for password, password input, and there's going to be a button to click and log into the application. So let's add these things quickly. So we have a label that says username. Then we have an input. And the end input, let's just leave it as input like that for now. So we have a label of password text with password text. And then we have an input for the password. And we have a button. So if I save this, oops. So for the button, you need to give a text to the button. Same thing you did for the username. So we're going to call it sign in. So if we save it and refresh this page, you can see we have our username, text input, password, text input, and sign in button. Let's put these on several lines. So after our username input, we can add a break tag to say go to the next line, and we can do the same thing after our second input. And if you save and refresh this page, you can see that you already have your username, password input, and sign in button. So you can see you can put a username, password, and click on the sign in button. So right now we can see your password as you input it. We can also, the sign in button is also not doing anything at the moment. So we can fix that real quick. So for input for the username, we can say the type is a text. So for the password, the type is password. And for the button, the type is button. Okay? So if I save and refresh the page, if you say I entered my username, no problem, the password can be seen and the sign in button is still not doing anything. Okay, so what do we want to do? So we want the user, once the user enters the username Michael, the password Weston, and clicks the sign in button, the user should be able to see a welcome message, welcome Michael Weston. We're going to create our first JavaScript function. So JavaScript is a programming language. So like other programming languages, it has things called functions that you can call to execute a piece of code. So to write our function inside the script tags, you're going to say function, and we can give any name to our function, sign in, and now let's define what the function is going to do. So pretty much the sign in function is going to check the username. So we can add a piece of logic to our function. So if something happens, do something. So if we read our username, right? So we need to give an ID to our username. input. So here we can just say ID equals username. And we can also do the same thing for the password. ID equals password. So we have a username ID, a password ID. So we're going to say if the users get the username value and that value equals Michael, and we want to give a second condition which says if we also read the password, so this is the AND operator, so if we also read the password field, we get the value and the password equals Western, then we should be able to log into the application. So if the user enters a username whose value is Michael and a password of Western, then here we should execute the code to log into the application and display a welcome message. So what we're going to do is call this div demo. Just give it an ID of demo, and we're going to get rid of this is my front end application. So right now we're not doing anything inside this if condition. So let's see what our application looks like. So let me save this and refresh just to show you. So we have a username, password, sign in button. You can enter a username, anything. You can enter any password. Sign in is not doing anything at the moment. Okay, so I got rid of the message that was up here. It's gone. So it's just the title, and then we have our login screen. So, and I'm calling this login section a demo. So once we log in, I'm going to replace everything here with the text welcome Michael Weston. So let's do that here. So you get document.getElement by ID demo. So we take this section and we replace the HTML with hello Michael Weston and save. So what's going to happen here is if the user signs in and we check the username and password and it's what we expect, then we display this message to the screen. So right now we're not calling our function. So if I refresh this page and write stuff, we're still not doing anything. But I need to call this function. And this is there's something called onClick that you can attach to your button that says when you click this button, call the function called sign in. And if we refresh, I saved it. So if we refresh this page and enter some random text and sign in, so here we're not really displaying any alert when someone enters a wrong password, but that's something that we can still do in the future. So, but right now I'm just going to enter Michael and Weston and click sign in, and you get the text hello Michael Weston. So we just completed our login page, and we're now able to log in to the application. So let me clarify a few things. So HTML is a markup language. You can add styles like we did here. You can add some JavaScript. You can create a JavaScript functions that will execute a piece of code, and you can call that piece of code whenever you want. In this case, you're calling it when we click on the button. In the real world, you will not check password like this in your front-end application. And even in your back-end application, the passwords are not even stored in plain text, right? So this is just good for the demo right now, but definitely it can help you get started in seeing how these things are built. But you're gonna have to learn a little more to know what to do in a real-world application. We're pretty much done with our application. Another thing I wanted to mention is JavaScript. Most programming languages use double equals signs to compare strings, but with JavaScript we use triple equal signs. There's still double equal signs, but it means something slightly different. Okay, so this is a comparison between one value and another string value. But once we use one equal sign, it means assignment. So we're pretty much saying this thing, replace it with whatever is on the right side. So this is our simple application. So if we refresh again, it's going to display the sign-in page again. You can change the color of this button, right? So this is an element called a button. You can come here and do something similar and give it some styles. So I want all my buttons to have a background color of let's see, what color is going to be good for this guy. Let's see, let me give it the background color of maroon and save and refresh the page. Oops, you can't really see anything. So let me give it another color. Let me just give it a midnight blue. Save it, refresh the page. You can also change the text color of the button. So let's just give it a white color and save, refresh, and there you go. So one last thing I want to mention, if you refresh this page, username and password, you see that there's no placeholder here. You can add the placeholder for your username. It's called placeholder. You call it username, you give it some text, and you can also add a placeholder here. Placeholder. You can say enter your password or just call it password. If you save and refresh the page, so you can see the placeholder, once you start typing text, it goes away. And once there's no text, it comes back up. This is it for this video. We built our first front-end application by creating a login page and allowing the user to see a welcome message after signing in to the application. Feel free to go to the w3schools.com website to learn more about HTML, CSS, JavaScript, or any other language you would like. So I really hope you enjoyed this content. If you have any issues completing this short tutorial, feel free to put your comments down below and I'll respond as soon as I can. Alright, thank you for your time.